Good afternoon, guys. It's your Miss Matile here again. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Yeah, if you are new, welcome to the channel. And if you are old, thank you for always coming back to watch my videos. It really means a lot to me. So in today's episode, I want to discuss why most relationships and marriages are not working out today. So there are so many reasons why relationships and marriages are not working out this nowadays. But in this video, I will just discuss few of them. So my number one point that I think it's the reason why relationships and marriages are not working out nowadays is that nowadays people are doing relationships and marriages based on personal feelings and also based on opinions of culture and the society, rather than them doing the relationships based on the eternal truth founded by God, who created these relationships and marriages. So people are no longer doing relationships and marriages as God commanded them to do. People need to understand that it's God who created all these things. They need to understand that it's God who created marriage and love relationships. And He gave rules on how to do these relationships and marriages. I want you to understand that for every product that you buy in a shop, they all come with a user's manual that have instruction on how you are going to use that product. So as you, as a person, God created you and you came with a manual. A manual that instructed you on how to do every aspect of your life. That include relationships and also marriages. And people tend to ignore this. They tend to ignore. Understand, Gusha, if you buy a product in the shop and you come home and you open it and you ignore the user's manual and you decide to use the product without you following the instruction, you might end up damaging it or destroy it. Similarly to you as a person, when God created you, you came with a manual that instructed you on how to do every aspect of your life in the right way. You ignoring it, it may lead you to some disaster that may even end up killing you. So many people died because they have ignored the Bible. Because they ignored the Bible, they created their own mess. And from this mess, in some cases, it even led them to death. It's very dangerous. Okay, so now if you understand that, I want you to understand that if you just ignore God's word and choose to do relationships and marriages based on your own feelings and opinion of your culture, then believe me or not, that relationship or that marriage won't work out. It will just lead you to a situation whereby you will be in a situation whereby one of you will be suffering in that marriage or in that relationship, tolerating the other one. Relationships that are built without God as a sender of that relationship or as a sender of that marriage, they involve suffering. So one partner in that relationship or in that marriage will be just there tolerating the other one. So just understand that if you are doing your relationship or your marriage based on your own feelings or based on the opinions of your culture, the belief that your culture have to say that is how you're supposed to do a marriage, or that is how you're supposed to do a relationship, I want you to understand that it will be a difficult marriage. It will be a difficult relationship. If it's done based on your own personal feeling, or if it's done based on how your culture instructed you to do it. Understand, Lucia, if that relationship or if that marriage has no God as a sender of it, it will be a difficult marriage. It will be a difficult relationship. Okay? So, you need to understand also that relationships and marriages that are built without God, in most cases, they involve a lot of suffering and abuse. And eventually, they tend to get messy. I taught you in other video to say, you cannot trust people. You can only trust the God in them. I want you to understand that even God who created human beings, himself also, he don't trust them. That's why he gave them Jesus, so that because he knew they were already going to sin, and if there is nothing to save them, then it will be just all messy. So that's why now, even God who created them, he cannot trust them. That's why he gave them Jesus, so that whenever they are sinning, he will no longer look at their sin or at them, but he will look at the perfect Jesus who is sin-free, because he cannot trust them. Who are you now as a person to put your trust in people or to do your relationship or your marriage without God, and you will just entirely put your trust in your partner? That is dangerous. That is very, very dangerous. So, you need to understand, Gusha, you cannot put your trust in people. People do changes, and you will be disappointed. Even if your marriage or your relationship started off so smoothly, everything is going well, just know that if there is no God in that marriage, if there is no God in that relationship, at some point in life, get ready to be disappointed. Even if it started, you can argue to say, okay, we are in a relationship where there is no God, and right now everything is just going smoothly. We don't have problem. We are happy. I'm saying that even if it started off like that, be prepared that at some point, maybe when you are getting old or when you are in the middle of your relationship, if there is no God, you are more likely to be disappointed at some point in that relationship. You cannot put your trust entirely in people without God being in them. It's very dangerous. Okay, so I want you to understand, Gusha, God gave you a manual, which is the Bible, to live by, because He understands human beings, because He's the one who created you, and He knows that you cannot entirely put trust in your partner. You need something to guide the two of you for your marriage or for your relationship to be able to work out. Okay? So I also want you to understand that God also commanded you not to marry or date the non-believers. People who do not believe in God. God commanded you not to marry them and also not to date them. If you as a believer want to end up in a big mess, start dating or marrying someone who does not love God. In other words, just marry people who are non-believers. So if you really want to end up in a tough spot and a messy home, just get married to someone who does not love God. Then you will have a messy home. Then you will have a home that lacks love. Then you will be just there tolerating things. And you need to understand that if your partner is a non-believer and they don't love God, they won't even know how to love you. They won't even know how to love you right. You need to understand that. So just know that if you get married to someone who does not love God, just understand that that is a recipe for disasters. This is why most relationships and marriages are not working out nowadays. It's a recipe of disasters. So you need to understand, Gusha, a marriage done by two unbelievers, it's not a godly marriage. And I do not know why people choose to be in such marriages where God is not a sender of that marriage. They need to understand that it's not a godly marriage and it's not worth keeping because it's a sinful marriage. Most marriages that we have nowadays, most of them are sinful marriage, even though they were blessed by God in church. They are not operating according to God's will. That's why, even though it's blessed in the church by God, if the two of you that are doing it, you are non-believer, I want you to understand, Gusha, it's not a godly marriage, it's a sinful marriage, and it does not worth keeping. Okay? So, and you need to understand, Gusha, even if that marriage was blessed in church, and the two of you are non-believer, or one of you is a non-believer, I want you to understand, Gusha, your marriage or that marriage, it's a sinful marriage. It's not a godly marriage, and it does not worth keeping because God won't bless such a marriage. That marriage will have a lot of chaosness. It will have a lot of frustrations. It will have a lot of it will be a messy home. And God will not bless such marriages. Some people in their marriage, they already have signs that are telling them, Gusha, I'm not in a godly marriage. If your marriage is full of a lot of frustrations, a lot of anger, a lot of misunderstanding, this is already a sign that is showing you that your marriage is not godly and it does not worth keeping, and it will never work out either, even though it was blessed by God in church. I just understand, Kusha, a house that is built by two non-believers, God will not bless that house. That house will always full of anger, violence, all the fruit of the evil one will be in that house. Because God will never pour his blessing in such a home. You got to understand that. And that does not mean, in some cases, you can marry a non-believer, and you as a believer, you will pull them to God. Then your house will be saved. You can start off, in some cases, some people will start off with a sinful marriage, and somewhere maybe in the middle of their marriage, they will decide to say, we should start going to church and accept Jesus as a center of our home. In such case, your home can be saved, your marriage can be saved, and it can become a godly marriage if you do that. God is a merciful God. And just understand, Gusha, if it's not a house built by believers, God will hardly bless that house. And if he's not blessing that house, it does not mean that he does not love you. It only means that he does not bless anyone who chooses to ignore and reject him. It's not possible. Even in science, you are being taught to say, unlike charges, they repel each other. They do not attract each other. So now if you are a believer and you are marrying the non-believer, it won't work, because unlike charges, they do not attract each other. There's nothing good come out of that, in other words. Okay? So, my advice to you, if you truly value marriage, if you truly value family and a happy home, do not marry people that are non-believer as God commanded you to do. Okay? So, for you to have a happy and functional home, you need God's blessing. If your marriage is going to succeed on every level, you need God's blessings in that home. And I just want you to understand that God won't bless a home that is built by non-believers. You got to understand that. Okay? So I also want you to understand that a perfect time to commit your life to Jesus or to God is during your courtship. with the one you love, with that person that you choose to love and date and later end up in marriage. The time of your courtship is the time that you supposed to start off building your relationship on the foundation of God. God is a merciful God. Even if you were doing what He forbid you to do during your courtship, and you both love Him wholeheartedly, and later you get married and stop fornication, He will forgive you and your partner and bless your marriage. He is so merciful. And I also told you, sir, you can start if you are already in the marriage then, and you already started with someone who is a non-believer and you are a believer. Try to pull your partner to God and your home will be saved. Okay? So my advice to you, if the person you are dating is not willing to have Jesus as the center of your home, do not date them. Do not marry them. It will be a difficult marriage, or it will be a difficult relationship, and it will end in tears. This is the reason why most of these relationships and marriages are ending in tears these nowadays. It's because people tend to ignore the instruction God gave them on how to do relationships and marriages. Even if you are in a courtship and you are not married and you both of you love God, God is a merciful God. He will bless that relationship and it will later grow and get into a marriage. But if you are in a relationship and you are non-believer and you are doing things just like that, it will end in tears. Believe me or not. Okay, so understand that getting married today without Jesus, it's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute, and the landing will not be pleasant. So what I want to say is that getting married today without Jesus is like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. If you do like that, if you jump out of a plane without a parachute, your landing will be definitely not good. It will not be pleasant without the parachute. So, understand, Kusha, without God, to help you land safely. So understand that getting married today without Jesus is just like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Your landing will not be present without the Lord to help you land safely. That is what I want to say. So if you are jumping into relationships and marriage, like you are jumping out of a plane without a parachute, it's like your landing will be very difficult because there's nothing to help you to land safely. So now, understand, Gusha, if you go in relationships and marriages and you have your God, you will land safely in that relationship. You will land safely in that marriage. But without God, you won't be able to land safely at the end of your journey. Okay? Also understand that God's heart is closer to a woman's heart. He commanded men to say they should love their wives as Christ loved the church, and they will obtain favor from God. And most men, they tend to ignore this profound statement. God will bless you as a man if you enter into that marriage and you treat your wife right and you love your wife wholeheartedly. Most men create their misfortune through treating their wives badly, through stressing their wife throughout those marriages. Remember, God commanded you were supposed to obtain favor when you are in a marriage and you love your wife like Christ loved the church. You will obtain favor in every area of your life. But if you go to those marriages and you don't know what you are doing, and you are in that marriage mistreating your wife and your children and your kids, understand that you will create your misfortune through that, and you will not obtain favor from God in every area of your life that you will be trying. Whether you are trying to get money, whether you are trying to be successful, you will not obtain favor from the Lord because you ignored His instruction. In most cases, men that are married and they treat their wives right and they love their wives, they tend to live longer. They tend to prosper in life. But those ones that are in the marriage and their wives are always crying and their children are being treated badly, those men, they tend up to attract bad luck and they don't live longer, and they tend to die premature. I read somewhere whereby a statement was written by a doctor, and he said, most men, they die in a very lonely way, because when they reach at the end of their lives and maybe they get sick, their children tend to drop them at the hospital and they just leave them there without coming back to check if they are doing well. Even the wife, they die in a lonely way without anybody caring for them. Why? Because it came from the way you treat your wife. It came from the way you treat your children. Understand that in life, there is always the end of life. So most men die in a lonely way because of the way they live, because of the way they treat their wives, because of the way they treat their children. So when they reach at the end of their lives and they get sick, so now people just drop them in the hospital like that. If they are not talking and they are not in the coma, nobody's coming to visit them. So they die in a lonely way because of that. If you just enter into a marriage and you treat your wife badly, you can destroy your life through that. People nowadays, they do not even fear divorce. I taught you in other video to say, God hates divorce. Go to your Bible. God hates divorce very much. He hates divorce. He hates cheating. He commanded people to say, if you divorce, you should not remarry again. He commanded also people to say, if there's a person who divorced, and you were never married, you should not marry them also. They are only allowed to remarry if their spouse is dead. But if if they divorce and their spouse are not dead, they are not allowed to remarry. What is the reason here? I told you to say, whatever age you are, I want you to look at sex, to look at Kusha, whenever you are doing sex, whatever age you are, you need to look at sex as a form of connection, as a form of something that is connecting the souls together. God understands all these complications. Sex can bring a lot of complications in your body. If you have been married to this spouse for 30 years, you have been doing sex in that marriage. And that sex, I told you in another video to say, sex is the one that makes you to become one fresh. That means that all those years that you have been together and you were doing sex, your souls and energy were connected together through this sex. And now if you divorce, you want to mix your soul with the next person that you will date. And God don't want that. That's why he hates divorce very much. If you are not sure, if you don't know how relationships work and how marriages work, do not just jump into relationships and marriages like that. And later you will divorce. And I am telling you, Kusha, God hates divorce very much. If you just enter into relationships and marriages and later you get divorced, you have destroyed your life. God hates that. So now understand these relationships and marriages enough so that when you are getting into them, you know clearly what you are doing, and you know that whenever you enter into a marriage, it's a lifetime thing. If you get out of that, God hates that, and there will be a punishment for that. You will suffer because of divorce. You will destroy your life through divorce. Okay? So if you are not wise enough to remain married, then just don't get married at all. Because getting married and just to later divorce, you can destroy your whole life through that. God does not love that. God hates cheating. God hates divorce. I'm telling you from now onwards, whatever age you are, when you are doing sex, I want you to start seeing sex as a form of connection, but you should not see it as a form of entertainment or a hobby. If you do that, you will create a mess out of your life. Sex connect. I want you to understand, Gushani. Most people, they connect their soul to so many people through cheating. And most people, they have spiritual issue. Maybe they even go to witch doctors and all these evil things surrounding them. If you are doing sex with such a person, whatever evil spirit they have in their body, it will be transferred into you. Whatever bad attitude they have, it will be transferred into you. That's why I'm discouraging people to date without knowing what they are doing. Date with purpose. Make yourself so clean of sexual immoralities, and get a person who is clean as you. When you are starting to, if you are a young girl, when you are starting to date in such a way that your first boyfriend should be your potential husband. If you are a boy, your first girlfriend should be your potential wife. We all wish that whenever we are meeting our partner or spouse, we all wish that we are the first one to date them. Dating people who have dated so many times, you will find those people with a lot of dirty energies and dirty spirit, and they will be transferred into you. If you have been doing that, if you have been doing dating through giving sex, and you were not aware of all these things, it's time to clear yourself up and stop dating people who are cheating. Stop dating people who are connected to a lot of people. People carries energy, and you do not want bad energy to be brought in your bed, and you do not want bad energy to be brought in your house. So love yourself enough and keep yourself pure of sexual immorality, and choose people that are like you. The Bible commanded you be equally yoked. When you are dating someone, be alike. And he commanded also to say, if you are unequally yoked, then you won't be able to perform the task that is set before you. If you are in that relationship and or in that marriage and you are not equally yoked, you won't be able to perform a task that is set before you, which is your relationship or which is your marriage, because you are unequal. You are unalike. Okay, so I hope you got what I'm trying to say. I hope you got something out of my video. Yeah, that was it from me today. I hope you will date right. I hope you will respect yourself, so that you will be free of sexual immorality. So, yeah. So, goodbye, and see you on my next one. Goodbye.